Meeting's ordered. We have two sets of minutes, one for that special meeting we had, and the other one need a motion to approve. We need to approve them one time, man. Okay. The first one would be for the regular meeting.
Motion's approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. And then the special meeting, need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Judge, the attachment, or the email I got didn't have the minutes attached to it. Did anybody else?
Everybody responded, it was fine. Or
On the
minutes,
special one?
the short minutes.
Yeah.
He responded, it's okay to email him, but I couldn't get it open either. I don't know
Yeah.
what the problem now.
There wasn't an attachment to it
So,
on the one I had.
Next meeting for that one?
sure. Yeah, let's put those off for next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Since the attachment didn't get attached, we'll vote for
I
the.
don't know why we use
Okay.
email.
You have a copy of the transfers? Any questions on those? And not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion for approval of
Very
the
good.
transfers.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. You have a copy of the bills and those hand checks. Any questions on those? Need a motion to approve the bills. Mr. Lyons, second. All in favor?
Judge, gentlemen recused from any Parks and Rec that may be in their place.
Okay. We need to note in the minutes that Mr. Lyons has completed his credit union and I assume received his stipend. Also, we need to report in the minutes that the jail budget was submitted. And we have two representatives here from the American Red Cross and have a proclamation. I'll ask Glenn if he would mind reading the proclamation. And these are our two representatives from Red Cross.
This is the American Red Cross Month 2014. Proclamation is March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank our everyday heroes, those who reach out to help our neighbors when they are in need. American Red Cross heroes are on the front lines every day. They volunteer their time, take life-saving courses to provide financial donations to help those in need. We would like to remember our heroes here in Scott County who give to help people in need. They work tirelessly to help in times of disaster, provide resources, or the comfort of a helping hand. They provide round-the-clock support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and teach life-saving classes in CPR, aquatics, safety, and first aid. Across the country and around the world, the American Red Cross responded to hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and wildfires. The tragedy at the Boston Marathon, Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. When an injured service member ended up in a hospital far from home, the American Red Cross offered comfort. When a lifeguard jumped in to save a drowning child, or someone stepped up to help a heart attack victim, the American Red Cross was there. We dedicate the month of March to all those who support the American Red Cross mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. Our community depends upon the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time and money to fulfill its humanitarian mission. Now therefore, I, George Lusby, Judge Executive of Scott County, Kentucky, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of Scott County and Kentucky, do hereby proclaim March 2014 as American Red Cross Month. I encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission, and it has today's date.
Thank you. Need me to sign that?
Okay. Makes it official.
Makes it official.
What was the name of that typhoon again?
I'm gonna say high-end.
He wasn't sure how to pronounce it. I said, call it anything you want to.
I'm still not certain, so.
Gentlemen, thank you. Ladies, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
appreciate this.
Thank you.
We're honored again today to have Andrew Hartley here from the city, and we'll skip 7 and go to 8 and then come back to 7, if that's all right. We'd like for our guests to be first. And this is about the IT contract, and we discussed it at length at the workshop. Andrew, you might bring us up to date on where we are, and then we'll vote for it or against it.
Sure. I ran a few numbers yesterday. We're hoping to take this, again, I'm Andrew Hartley, city attorney. We're hoping to take a similar motion to our city council on Monday, budget amendment. We're asking, in order to allow us to enter into this 80-user contract, that you all approve Parks and Rec an increase in their budget enough to allow them to go under contract beginning April 1. So that would require 3 months' worth of 144 users. $144.46 per user for 16 users, for a total cost of $6,934.20. This time, that's really what we're asking for. That's what we'll be asking the council to approve. I know that they have a budget request for next year in front of you all. I don't know if you all are working on that or considering that today, but that's really what we're here to ask for. My understanding, again, is that all of the other parties have the funds needed to get through the end of this fiscal year. We're still working on drafting up a contract that would solidify the relationship between the city and Parks and Rec and the city and Planning and Zoning. But we're just trying to knock out one step at a time. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Let me ask, do we need to pass the municipal order if this is what we want to do? Is that correct? Yeah, and everybody's got a copy of the municipal order that we've been asked. We've discussed it, and certainly, from my understanding of the discussion, we pretty much thought that this was the right direction to go. If so,
I thought we were gonna receive something from Parks and Rec from Jerry Remley, but
Jerry called me. She was on her way here in that flat tire.
okay.
And and I called Andrew to and she may be here, but she may not be. That was the cost of the new equipment that it would take, and that Andrew, would be in next year's budget, I think.
I'd have to let her speak to that. I think that they've made that request because they need those funds. I think they need new computers, and they may need to upgrade software. Whether they're asking for that immediately or not, I'm not sure. I'm thinking that's next year's budget.
Yeah, it's in the request for next year, and of course I'm just now getting the request in.
I can tell you what they would have to request out of what they've put in their budget to cover just the cost of this contract. And that would be $27,736.80. So take whatever they've requested, subtract that, and I'm assuming that the rest of that is going to be dedicated to upgrades.
Will what we're implementing here, if we do this, will that be compatible with the computers that they have now, or will it be of any use at all?
I think that we can make it work on a temporary basis, yes, but I believe that after, it might be after April of this year, Microsoft is going to cease supporting their XP computers. I believe the software will run on those computers, but the safety and security of those machines will be in question. So they do need to make those upgrades soon.
Right.
I guess, Andrew, that they need to make the upgrades whether we go with Simplicity or not.
They do. And I just spoke to Jennifer, and I asked her what the cost of replacing a computer with with an operating system and no productivity software would be, and she estimates around $450 per computer. And my recollection, don't hold me to it, is they need somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 computers replaced. I think that, I didn't do numbers, but that puts the cost somewhere around $3,000, I think.
Now, is that purchasing them by state guidelines, or is that going to Best Buy and buying one? Because it appears that you can buy a computer for that much at Best Buy, but when you buy by state guidelines, it end up costing you $1,200-$1,500.
I know, I don't get it. We buy from CDW or, I can't remember the name of the other one. Jennifer was texting me earlier about it. We either buy from CDW or from Dell, because they have state price contracts.
So, I mean, that's a pretty firm figure, the $450.
It
We're not
is,
going to be
and
shocked with
I wanted to
$1,000
ask her,
more.
because you go to Walmart.com and
Right.
it says you can buy one for $200.
Yeah.
And I suppose if it was under the bidding guidelines, you could do that. But the state price contract for some reason is higher. I don't know if it has to do with the specs on the computers.
I think what Stuart was talking about, and I've talked to several magistrates since the workshop because I was out of town. I was curious as to, you said 16 users,
Correct.
which seems like a really high number, and here comes Jerry. I was kind of curious as to the list of who the users would be and what their job functions actually are.
That's Jerry, she's got her just in time.
On the users, the number of users, and who it is, what their job functions are, and justifying why the number of users.
Well,
Which I think each department should have to do that before we just throw a number of users out there.
Right, right. Well, what I had stated before was that I have a tiering system that Robin Allen had put together of what was most pertinent and whom. So it would be obviously all administration. There's no computers beyond administration that would be utilized. For example, one of the things that I had talked about at the last meeting was the front desk check-in. Those computers, to my knowledge, would be the very last ones that would need to be replaced in importance area, because those are pretty. I don't want to say they're new but they're newer than what we've had previously to support new documentation or new software programs that we would need to put on that. So you're looking at myself, Donna, who does all of our accounts payable. Julie does all accounts receivable with QuickBooks and those kinds of things. So the security aspect of that for us with just the security software that would be updated, all of that. Robin Allen, Sherry. I'm trying to think. Then, of course, the time clock computers that we have 2 of those that would be time clock computers.
Well, I'm not talking about upgrading the equipment, because that's really sounds like it's not going to be an exorbitant amount of money. But what I'm talking about is the actual users, purchasing the user fees from or users licenses from Sufficity. I think Andrew said 16 total user licenses, and who all that is, and do we truly need 16 based on what their job definition is?
Right, that's the minimum, and of course that also doesn't just handle the pavilion, that also handles our outdoor maintenance facility as well, because there's time clocks and things associated with that as well. So it's not just at the pavilion that we would need to utilize those users. We would need one at Ed Davis, we would need one, there's a computer out at the county area for the outdoor maintenance area, so it's not just at the pavilion. And then administration within the pavilion itself.
Gary, am I correct that 16 is you actually have enough to have 22
Correct.
users?
Correct.
Okay.
They've actually dropped it down to 16 to be there.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions?
You know, just one, I think we got the answer at this special meeting, but you said we could pull out of this at any time. I mean, this 3-month commitment does not commit us beyond. I mean, if we're not getting our $1,700 some dollars worth a year for each user out of this.
Well, we'll have to have, that's a discussion we're going to have with Parks as far as, what kind of, if the package drops down to 80 or below 80, what that means to the city in terms of cost. I'm assuming that means we could simply get rid of the engineer and go down to a 40-user package, so we can get out of it. But the question is, is that something that the city really wants to commit to? So the contractual arrangement between the city and Parks and Rec would have to govern what would happen in the event that they drop out after 3 months.
So you were asking for a 6-month commitment, not 3, is what you originally
Well,
indicated there.
At this point,
Basically.
we're asking you to put enough money in their budget to get us through the end of this fiscal year. The contract that we're going to enter into with Sufficity is going to be for a year, with the ability to. They tell us that we can change the package anytime we need to, but we're asking sort of for a good faith effort to get us through to a year. But anytime it had to be changed, if something happened, we can change it. We just prefer not to.
So I think it's clear that it's a longer-term expectation than 3 months.
And I think we ought to at least think that we're gonna be in it for a year. To think, well, we put you on edge, we may get out, but I think it would be better off betting against it than say we might get out in 3 months.
And, you know, one of the things that I stated at the last meeting that I want to reiterate again this meeting is that obviously that agreement between Parks and Recreation Board and the city will also be presented to you all as well, to vote on that before anything, at least on my part, is signed in any portion. So it's going to be a communication that's going on with all 3 entities that are involved in that.
Jerry, we had a discussion about the equipment the hardware is gonna need upgrades,
Yes.
and that's gonna be put in next year's budget. The 3 months between now and then,
Mhm.
have you looked at how well that's gonna work with the old equipment and?
We have, again, on that tiering basis, we have, and then, you know, basically, there's going to be some things, like I stated before, that I will come and ask if we can do a budget amendment. I know that I'm working, Stacy had sent me an email, and we're getting those numbers together of what we're going to ask the city on Monday night for a budget amendment as well. So I should have those numbers to be able to present. We're working with Jen at the city to try to find out, but then I've also gotten some additional information about state contracting that we could potentially purchase some computers at a much lower cost as that too, so I'm running some analysis with that as well. But, you know, there will be some upgrade that's needed, you know, and obviously that tiering process is what's going to determine when that is requested.
Judge, one of the things we talked with at our workshop meeting in some depth with Andrew and a couple of our department heads was about how this could complicate the regular budgeting process, since these agencies rarely end up with the full amount that they've asked for. And would this IT commitment then confuse some of those budget deliberations? And we all expressed a concern that we didn't want this commitment to, in effect, take away some of the court's authority in approving future budgets. And Judge, while it's your responsibility to draft the budget, I've talked to a couple of folks about the possibility of, if we'd like to ask these agencies to put this additional technology cost in a separate line item from our operating allocation to them, so that we can have specific conversations about your operating budget that don't get unnecessarily complicated by the IT conversations. And that may be something the city wants to consider, Andrew. That's not our call. And that's just a suggestion, Judge.
Well,
I don't know if that
the
would help or
budget
not.
that Jerry's turned in this is under capital cost. And there's more than one item under capital cost, but it is a line item within that.
Actually, Judge, if you remember when I presented, I said that $35,000 amount was in 2 areas. One is a line item in the operations budget specifically for the IT technology support.
Yeah.
In the event that does not work with all 3 entities of government and we're not able to do that, we definitely have some software issues that we're going to have to upgrade, and that's why it's also put in the capital. If it's approved, though, then that would be something that would be, it's not going to be in both budgets being asked for. I mean, it is right now, just because if it doesn't happen in one, it definitely needs to happen as far as upgrades in software and things. And we talked about that with our memberships and those kinds of things, and you know, how that affects our marketing as well if we don't, or if we're not able to hit with those things in our software program. So it is a separate line item within the capital, but it's also a separate line item under technology support in the operations budget as well. So it does, specifically state it's for that.
As long as the court retains the ability to have good conversations about your operational budget and other conversations about this technology need that we're sharing with the city.
The other thing, Judge, is it seems that we're gonna make this commitment from April going forward, and then we're gonna write a contract for a year from April 1 to April 1. Andrew, is that?
That would be correct.
The only problem I see with that is that's not within our budget year. I mean, and is, at the end of that contract, this is a question, I think goes back to the meeting we had on the interlocal committee, which I've told you before, I would much rather us have opened this up for other vendors to see. But since the city has moved along at this point, I don't want to totally stall it and stop it. But, it looks like, Judge, we need to make this for a budget year. I mean, are we going to redo a contract in the middle of a year?
We had to do transfer.
Maybe we can. Maybe
That's
we can.
easy. That part's about as easy as you can get. We just transfer the money in there. But
Would there be an opportunity, Andrew, for the city to look at other vendors that, at the end of this year, this is what we talked about at our interlocal meeting.
You
David.
talking about budget year 2000?
Well, before next April, to see if other vendors could offer a similar or better service than this one.
the budget, Stuart, wouldn't affect whether they rebid it or didn't bid it. We would have the money, if we put it in the budget for 2014, 15, it's in there regardless
Right.
of who the vendor is.
I just think it would be a good thing, Andrew, since we went through all the discussion with the interlocal committee, to possibly next year see if there are other vendors that could possibly do the same thing.
I don't know why we would have an objection to looking.
Can you just extend the contract to get it on a fiscal year? I mean, you're only talking about May, June. If you're going April to April, why not just go May, June and extend it out and just get it on a fiscal year? That way, it just makes sense.
It has nothing to do with the budget. As far as, we're gonna budget if we do it for you.
But if we do an annual contract, I'd like it to be on the
I don't
fiscal
have-
year so
yeah,
that
but
it,
if-
so if
don't-
we don't come up in January and look at it and that the contract renewal in April might be, if it takes an increase that we're not comfortable with, that the service hasn't worked.
You all look at it how you need to. From the city's perspective, we need that network engineer here last year. So we're hoping to get them in here April 1, and it's 6 months worth of having a network engineer, which is the minimum we're going to need. So we're not going to get by with just having a 2-month-long contract. They may be willing to accept, we're going to do this for 3 months and we promise to renew if the money's there, but.
I think what he's talking about, Andrew, is making it a 15-month.
Yeah, making it a 15-month contract,
not a
just to get it
3-month.
on fiscal year in that manner.
Well, I can certainly propose that, bring that back to council. I don't know why they would have a problem with that.
Because it's no different than insurance or any other annual contract. It's easier if you have it on the fiscal year,
Sure.
then that way you know when we're talking in March and April about the budget.
Yeah. No, I don't see a problem with that.
I'm going by memory. It's 6 months on the engineer, average, they're figuring $7,000 worth to the government. After that, there'd be a lot of phone assistance that would be requested probably. Is there going to be fees from that point?
The Sufficity fee is the same no matter what. The Sufficity fee will always be, if you have 80 users, it will always be $144.60 per user for the support package that you get. The bonus that you get is if you go to an 80-user package, you get 6 months of a network engineer on top of that.
I understand.
And after that goes away, we will have the need for additional IT support, but
Do we have any idea on an hourly basis of whatever that would cost?
I don't think we're looking at it in that manner. I think what's going to happen is the city in 6 months is going to reevaluate, and hopefully the departments will too, reevaluate the state of the city's IT system and determine if additional help is needed. And if additional help is needed, we determine whether we do that as part of hiring someone or as extending a contract or doing a different contract or what have you. So we're honestly hoping that we get, in the next 6 months, we get the problems fixed so we can get a better handle on what our ongoing IT needs will be. We can't give you that. Right now, all we know is we have great needs. But we have high expectations that once we get those needs fixed, that the burden may be substantially less and will not require another full-time network engineer.
The reason I bring it up is you got all these users. You already got problems that you need to get transferred over into a new program. You got your tech for 6 months. But afterwards, you're still going to have problems with a lot of users at the same time. Might be 15 of them. So is that at the time that you hope to have to know whether we have to hire additional personnel, or will we possibly be paying so much an hour for 15 users? I mean, it could add up.
If you have problems, is Jennifer in a position where she can handle 80 users and the system? Or are you gonna, or at 6 months from now, are we gonna find out that we have to hire somebody at $40,000 a year? Or that the city does?
I can't really answer that question. What I can tell you is that the user support is there, even without the network engineer. The hope is that once the 6 months has passed and the problems are knocked out, that between Jennifer and IT in a Box, the support that they provide for 80 users, that we can handle whatever gets thrown at us.
And
That's
at
the
that
hope.
point in time, you'll have upgraded software or hardware, you'll be on the cloud, you'll be.
Correct.
Okay.
Or at least we will know what those needs are and what the costs are.
And it sounds like this situation will continue to evolve, and you're going to be city's going to be in a position to evaluate the progress. The court will too. While I understand the desire to make this contract match up with a budget cycle, I think I'm more concerned that if we need to commit for a year, we commit to a year, but I don't see much need to commit for more than 12 months today, since we're going to be evaluating this at several points going forward. So I think I would be in favor of the 12-month term that's been presented to us.
We've got contracts that expire all through the year. No, it's not, in fact, I don't know of any contract we've got that's on a fiscal year. The only contract we've got that expires on a year is insurance, and there's a reason for that. But,
I don't disagree, Tom, with, we can make it for that. I would just like for a commitment, as best Andrew can make, that we will look at outside vendors. This is what we talked about in our interlocal meeting. And then this situation came up. I want to move forward, but I also want to take the opportunity when it arises, if there is a better opportunity out there, that we look at it and not be locked in. So that's all I'm asking. And I'll be willing to commit to the 1 year, but I just need to know that what we agreed to in the interlocal meeting will happen later rather than when we thought it should.
are we ready for a motion?
No, question. Based on what I'm hearing, we get or y'all get a engineer in 6 months if you sign a 12-month contract. And so I'm trying to think of this logically. So I guess if you sign another contract when this one expires, I would expect for an engineer to be in that contract for 6 months. Is that?
I would not, no, I would not
You
expect
wouldn't
that.
expect
no.
that.
No.
Would you ask for it?
Sure.
I mean, to me, it makes sense, because if they can do it now, why can't they do it next time? If, you're doing the same duration, same commitment, same dollar,
All I can do is
everything.
say no, right? We'll be glad to ask.
I mean,
Well, if you put a contract out, Bill, you'd have to put specs out for what you expect.
right.
So, you know, if you expected one, you'd expected both.
Right,
Or you
but-
would have expected them neither. So,
But in this case, it was negotiated, not bid
Yeah.
out.
any other questions? Is there a motion to approve municipal order 14015?
Make a motion.
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
Who's second?
I think Stuart-
All in favor?
Judge, I'm gonna recuse myself from the Parks and Rec portion of that.
You got that? All right. Got unanimous, except Bill recused himself for one part of the municipal order.
I thank you all very much.
Thank you, Andrew. We go back to number 7 now. Larry? Oh, okay.
Your Honor, Magistrates, I'm Captain Michael Humphrey with the Scott County Detention Center. I'm the Operations Manager. Discussing the security cameras and upgrades that we're suggesting. I guess you know where we're at with as far as the performance bond. I believe Counsel Williams spoke to Mr. Gish. I've talked to Mr. Gish as well. I've also talked to people at Linkology. Linkology has indicated that they would be willing to purchase the whole performance bond in the amount of about $5,000, provided we could find some place to store their equipment. So what we've done is we've managed to try to clear out our storage building, and they're going to come here today at 1, and they're going to find out if that'll meet their needs. If they can store that there, we'll be back on track, I guess. Otherwise, I don't know how else to proceed from here.
And you,
on this subject.
where you stand on that? Any for more
And
information?
either way, I mean, like I said, we're gonna wind up needing to move forward with the project somehow, so I don't know if you're gonna allow the jailer to go ahead and, if that doesn't work out, I think that what we've organized, what we've worked out for storage should meet their needs. They were gonna have to rent a trailer to store some of their equipment for I guess it'll be a period of 2 weeks to up to 30 days while they're working on it. Hopefully we'll get the project done in about 2 weeks. So if they don't have that, to absorb that cost, they say if we could find someplace to store their equipment, then they'd be willing to go ahead and obtain the whole performance bond. So that's what we're hoping to do. That's that's plan A right now.
That's,
That makes any sense.
I mean, that's better information than I have. I did speak with Mr. Gish, and Michael's evidently spoken to him since I have. But if they're willing to purchase that in exchange for some type of storage facility, that's better than what I expected, quite frankly.
We've been working on it, Your Honor, as you will.
They have. I would have to agree that, you know, since your bid specs did not include the performance bond, if now Linkology is voluntarily going to do that in exchange for the storage area, I'd say we better do that. That would be I don't have a vote.
Everything else on the contract is ready.
Yes.
So we need a motion authorizing me to sign the contract with that stipulation.
So moved.
David beat you to it. You're second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? It was unanimous.
Well, that's great.
Well,
Holy cow.
it's been a long.
Yes,
Sounds
I'm
shocked.
Your Honor. Darn sure have. The next thing we've got, we want to talk about our GED program we've got. The state has mandated several changes to the way GED is going to be taught. Oh, good Lord, the changes, like as you well know, when the state gets involved with something, things get complicated. First of all, what we're going to do is we'd like to offer another contract to a female instructor to work with our female inmates. We'd like to use the same exact contract we've got with Mr. Hale at present. We're extending that the same thing. This is going to be Ms. Tina Whaley. She's got a master's degree. She's also, like I said, she's a GED instructor. Be for the same thing, $25 an hour. She'll be working with just the female inmates, though. And so right now, I've got a male instructor, and they work with male and female. And due to PREA issues and several things that have been changed, we're trying to have male instructors work with male inmates and female instructors work with female inmates. So that would help us come back into line with that.
Is that a requirement, Michael?
Yes, sir. Like I said,
Is it?
how to put it, it is strongly encouraged. And anything we can do to keep those two issues separate, that's what they're trying to get us to do. But that's on the PREA side. That's on the federal. decide to keep us back in line with Bria. Yes.
There shouldn't be any additional cost for that because you're instructing them anyhow. You just have somebody else doing it, and Mr. Hale that's doing it now is going to be doing less because he's not going to be doing the female inmates.
I
the
don't
total
think so,
cost-
Bill, because you're gonna have two classes instead of one.
It'll be double.
Well, they say,
But
okay,
it's- but
if
we're
there is
paying
an
them so
increase,
much-
it won't be,
Okay, I see
it will
what
not
you're
be a
saying.
big increase, I'll put it to you that way. She's only gonna be here maybe one day a week to maybe two times every 3 weeks, as Mr. Hale comes usually twice a week. So like I said, there's more, there obviously are more males housed than there are females, and we haven't had as many females go through the GED program for whatever reason. But this will also allow parity so we can reach some of the female inmates. Of all the things we do, I mean, helping people complete their education while they're with us is one of the best thing, in my opinion, we can do as far as improving people's lives. So the jailer, I know, supports GED, and I know you all have too. We want to continue doing that, like I said, but we need to be able to do this by meeting the PREA guidelines too, so.
Would you have an idea of how much additional cost that would be based on?
Wow. I would say maybe 25% increase, something like that, 25 to a third. Of course, like I said, that's just a rough guesstimate, magistrate, but that'd be what I would expect. Again, because like she's not going to be there as nearly as often as a regular GED instructor is.
Yeah,
Also,
Michael, I can't imagine a stronger tool against recidivism
I
than
agree.
helping educate.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, because there's a couple other things that have been happening. There's a pre-testing system now. They're no longer going to be taking GED tests with paper anymore. Those days are gone. Everything's going to be done on computer, which means you all talk about IT issues, means we'd have to be getting additional computers, one dedicated just for a quote proctor and one for, at least one for testing. We've got a grant. BCTC is going to be doing the pre-testing services for us, and like I said, that's going to be provided. It's not going to cost us anything for the pre-testing. And they're going to give us 2 state-of-the-art computers that we're going to be able to use, one for a trained proctor and one for to take the tests on. So we were very happy that BCTC, they felt that our program was, we've made a whole lot of progress. Like we've had it probably the 2nd or 3rd highest place within the county for adult education for people to get their GEDs. So they thought that it was a good place for them to put this equipment. So they gave us the only thing we'll have to pay for additionally, of course, we'll have our IT people hook them in together with cabling. And because that won't be that much. I'm still waiting for bids and for them to tell me an estimate what they think it's going to cost. We're not expecting much on that.
I was just asking Glenn, we need a motion to for me to sign the contract employing this person. What's it, for a year? Is that what's the
Yes, sir.
contract?
Well, we're going to start the contract as well tomorrow, will be March 15th through the end of the year is what it usually works.
Yeah. Is there a second?
And it's the same contract that Mr. Hale has.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
The only other thing we have to do is we have to provide a couple of people trained for service proctors to be able to administer the test. The jailers authorized us to get some training coordinators together. They're assisting one of our training. We've got a training sergeant. He's got a senior deputy male and a senior deputy female. They're helping to train our staff. We're working on bringing some of those training needs inside. Instead of having to send them everywhere, we're doing some of it inside now. And they're also going to be taking the test through Pearson VUE. They're going to get certified that way so they can also administer the test, GED test as necessary. So,
Michael, you need to get the contract up here.
Okay.
I have to sign it.
Sure.
But it's been voted on, so.
Sure, okay, we can do that. Most
Now,
definitely.
what else you got?
And that's about it. I guess it just lets you all know that you've taken care of Ms. Whaley, and you all understand where we're at from GED. Y'all have any other questions in terms of operations or anything else?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate it.
Just one comment I want to make. We, jail small, we hold 76 inmates is all we hold. The last previous year, 3,150 is what we had. It's hard to imagine, there's so many of them coming in and out for a small jail. I won't be here many years, many months or whatever, but one of these days, when I think about jail, as much as we get ready for. But hopefully, the way it goes with us, a lot of them getting out, so it's helpful. That's cool out here.
Thank you, Larry. We have hay bids on two properties that we own. One's the reservoir and the other's the property down by 227. I think we just got two bids, one on each one.
This is on the Gray Crossing property. This bid's from Mr. George Ammerman, county farm located Gray Crossing, US 227, 35 acres grain, 85 acres hay, 120 total. Bid amount $5,500.
He does an excellent job too on that, so. Is that your
Judge,
motion?
one thing I'd like to comment was that, being as we talked about a relocation of the road department and whatnot, if that site should be chosen, I'm not saying that it is, but if it should be picked and it interfere with any of his, that we'd have to consider maybe some type of reimbursement, but I'm still willing to make the motion to accept his bid.
Okay, motion to accept his bid. Is there a second, Mr. Prather? Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
This is on the reservoir property. Bid comes from Mr. James Cook, bid for hay on county property, $200.
Motion to approve.
Hughes, is there a second?
Second.
Did you get it? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Judge, when we do the hay bids, it always makes me miss Gary Perry.
Perry.
What?
It always
Same
makes
thing.
me miss Gary Perry.
Oh, he
Uh,
voted
Gary-
against it.
Gary always
He
felt
voted-
strongly about that, and he always voted against.
I was gonna- I was gonna-
At least in the hay.
He was consistent on that, that's for sure.
I don't think we ever do that.
One of the things when we mentioned and it was approved, the $1,040 increase on salaries across the board, that I want to bring up, I don't think I mentioned it, that would include part-time people. Now, part-time people, we have three different salaries. 24-hour people gets, theirs is to get $1,040, Jane. 24-hour people is 32 cents an hour. 40-hour people are 50 cents an hour. 35-hour people is 57. So it would be that much added to these salaries. And, but they don't work, they won't make $1,040 a year, but they'll make it on that average because they can only work 100 hours a month. So if they worked 100 hours, it would be $520 if they worked less. So, we haven't, and part-time people, I don't think have had a raise in quite some time, so that would put them in line with what everybody else would get. I guess need a motion if you approve that. Bill, did you make that motion?
Yes, sir.
What's the amount?
It's,
Part-time commensurate with.
it would be equivalent to $520 on a full-time basis if they were on a full-time basis.
Depending on the number of hours.
Or
Second.
Depending on,
Yeah, that's.
Are you-
depending on the equivalent, not the 500.
Second.
Yeah. Who seconded that motion?
John T.
John T. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Jack?
I've got the opportunity to take some out-of-state training, myself and one volunteer. It's going to be in what's actually close to Chicago. Basically say it is in Chicago. The training will be paid for pretty much by a grant. Total cost of the training is just over $1,600 for both of us. The only expense to the county will be for some meals. Even some of the meals will be paid for. So that's the only expense to the county.
Yeah.
But I need permission for out-of-state travel.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? You already got it. All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
One thing that's not on your agenda, but it came up late yesterday. At the Fire Station 1, behind there, we've got 60-some acres, I think, isn't it, JR? Yes. Mr. Smith brought the adjacent property and wants to replace the fence. And I think in agricultural areas, it's 50-50.
It is.
And it's going to require, it's a jungle along that fence row, so it's going to require, a bulldozer to clean it out. And the fencing, and I got an estimate yesterday, about $14,000 total. So our half, and we need a fence for our property as well, would be around $7,000. That's the estimate. And I told Stephen that we would bring it up today and I think we are obligated for approval of it.
Yes.
So,
I have a question. What type of fence is going on?
farm fence.
Okay, so, I was just curious, because I know on the development, they call it, for the Diamond V and all, and I didn't know what it would, problems it would create if the public gets on our property.
It'll just be woven wire
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah, I didn't ask what kind of fence it was. I don't know.
Because it's not a development.
It's not a
ag.
development.
It's ag property adjoining ag property, so it'd be.
Most likely be woven wire with the barbed wire.
Mr. Lyons, is there a second? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Those are all the items that I have on the agenda. Anyone, anything bring up? Mr. Brady?
No, sir.
No.
I've got one item, Judge. I've had more than one person mention to me that the meeting minutes online have not been posted since December. And that leads to the perception that, for some reason we don't want them on there. Is there any way we can get that updated?
They're up to date.
They're up to date?
They
Okay.
have been. I don't know what that's about.
Okay, maybe I'll find out what,
Hey, Bill, sometimes if somebody has a link and they save that link, it'll go to the old cached page.
okay.
So they might want to go straight into it as opposed to clicking a shortcut. I'm not saying that's the problem, but that might be the
Well,
problem.
then I would suggest, Bill, if somebody says something to you about those types of things, have them call Stacy, and usually what David's talking about, they can answer it for you, and then there won't be a perception. It'll be a reality. So just ask them to call, and we'll be glad to make sure that they understand, or we can fax them a copy, because certainly we don't want someone to have a
Right.
perception. Anything else? Mr. Hughes?
No, sir.
Do we have a status update on the show barn? How's it coming along?
Yeah, it's moving along good, but the weather, the date that they are obligated to is, I hope not what they get to, June the 30th. But they're working hard, every day that they can, and when they have a day that it's snow or something, they could push that date forward. It could be even pushed further, but I think, JR, that they're pretty far ahead of schedule, but that's their date that their contract calls for. But with the weather, that moves down the line. And it's not their fault. It's the Division of Housing in Frankfurt. So that's, and we've got the same situation at the museum.
No, sir.
One thing I did want to mention, we have change orders on every project we've ever had, and we've had change orders there. And if we don't, if the change orders are approved by me, by JR, by the architect, and for instance, we had some change orders on the concrete and the rebarb and all that. And if we had to wait for fiscal court, then we'd been 2 weeks later sitting there waiting. And we make those, and they're gone through. I want the court to understand that this happens. And we have to either do it or say stop. A lot of times stop and wait till the court meets again. Bill, do you have a question?
I'm just curious, What initiated the change order? What changed on the
Soil.
rebar?
Soil.
The soil.
Okay.
They didn't hit rock as soon as they
Yeah.
thought they would.
And we had a report on that one.
Yeah.
It was on our desk.
Yeah. We get all that, but these things are necessary to keep the project moving. And I think if you built a doghouse, you'd have a change order on it some way. And when you've got a $650,000 project, sometimes we have change orders that lessen it, not very often.
Right.
But they do happen. But I want the court to understand that we have to, and if anybody got any question about it,
I think, Judge, what you've done on the change order that we had out there is, you know, you pass it along to us and we know about it. That's all that, you know,
but.
we know these things are gonna.
But we have to make them, you know, if it's something, $100,000 or something, we, you know, we'd bring it up, but they're 3,000, 5,000, and, but that happens, and if everybody understands that, we're making those in a timely manner. That's all. Does anyone else have anything? Lee?
Nothing else.
Stacy? No further business?